So when SB 9 passed back in 2022, that's when it went into effect. We were one of the first channels to cover it. I had like 5 or 6 videos I made. I was so excited about it. And over the years, I've had dozens and dozens of conversations with California property owners who were sitting on large single family lots or were looking to buy large single family lots. They were curious about what this law could actually do for them. And almost every single one of these conversations hit the same wall. We'd figure out whether their lot and situation might qualify. They'd get excited. I'd be excited for them. And then they try to find a local civil engineer who actually knew how to navigate this process and would stand behind the result. And that's where it usually fell apart. Tonight, we're finally fixing that. Look at that big smile because of that. My guest tonight is Gloria Riechers. She is a junior civil engineer and COO of Riechers Engineering. Her father, Peter, built the firm over 45 years ago, and he doesn't just work in civil engineering. He was a city engineer for Calistoga and town engineer for Yountville. He sat on the government side of the approval counter. So when this firm tells you how a city is going to react and respond to an SB 9 application, they're not guessing. Right now, Riechers Engineering has more than 110 SB 9 projects underway and over 50 approvals statewide. That's amazing. I'm going to give a round of applause. I haven't even brought Gloria in yet. More than any other firm in California, they've built their own mapping software to analyze whether a property qualifies. And we're going to give you that link. It's got a technical name I'm going to let Gloria share with you. So the first conversation you have with these guys, it isn't a sales pitch. They're actually going to be talking about your property. Gloria oversees all of California personally. She knows the markets. Welcome to Real Estate Disclosure. Let's get her in here. Gloria, there you are. Thanks for coming up. So I'm so excited to have you here. It should have been sooner. I don't know what the heck I was waiting for.
Better late than never.
Here we are. So first thing we got to talk quickly about is the fact that you work with your dad. I love that as a dad to a bunch of kids and 2 daughters. What is it like working with dad?
I love it. It's brought us closer than we've ever been before. Nice. We've been working together for the last 5 years, and he comes from Germany, and he's very stereotypically German. So not super talkative or social or emotional. So this has been like our most contact time of my entire life. So
well, I love that. And if anything's going to make you emotional, it's dealing with the state of California and local municipalities. So what before we get too deep into this, what was the name of your handy dandy tool that you use that we're gonna give a link out for? What was that?
It's the eligibility checker tool.
I love it. So you guys make sure
it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. No, and it's perfect because those are the conversations I was having with folks who would reach out to me about SB 9. We'd run through, and there's a lot of high level stuff you need to check first, and that's what you're making happen. So it looks like Michelle just put that in the chat so people can click that, and we will actually go ahead and have that link below as well. So tonight, it's not going to be a beginner conversation about SB 9. I did a bunch of videos on that, but we will touch on some odds and ends that are slightly beginner, but we're going to go deeper. Tonight's the update. What's changed? What are the courts doing now? What's been around a few years? What updates are there? And it's important to know there's 2 provisions in this law that get conflated constantly by people who really should know better. So we're going to discuss that as well. Drop your questions in the chat. Michelle's out there keeping things clean. And remember, I can't give tax or legal advice, and neither can Gloria, but we'll talk about real estate all night. So does that sound fair, Gloria? You excited about this?
Sounds great. Thanks for having me, Christian.
Yeah, super glad to have you. So let's start. And I just said I wasn't going to do basics, but give me a quick 30,000 level view of what SB 9 allows a property owner to do.
So SB 9 is really changing the entire landscape of real estate in California because it is allowing single family properties to be subdivided and split into 2 legal properties. So beforehand, that wasn't possible, or it was very hard to do because you had to do a traditional parcel map and you had to abide by minimum lot size. So most parcels were already as small as they could be. But now with SB 9, this new law says there is no minimum parcel size. So as long as you meet these certain criteria, you can split your single family residential property, create a new parcel, and you can build up to 4 units on it. So it's just totally transforming the real estate market of California, or at least it has the potential to. Maybe it hasn't been utilized as much
Yeah.
as it should be, in my opinion,
Yeah.
but it definitely has the potential to totally skyrocket the availability of properties and buildable lots in California.
Well, and well said. It has the potential, and I know with anything in the state of California, all nighters here. We're glad to have him here, and he has a great comment. Thanks for coming, all nighter. He shared it with all his real estate buddies, so they should be coming. But he has a good comment that it's not called Clownifornia for nothing. So Clownifornia does make it tough.
Yeah.
But ADUs, when the first ADU legislation was passed, there was a ton of pushback, and there was a lot of clarification that happened in subsequent legislation.
Mhm.
And we're seeing that with SB 9. And what's important to understand too, all nighter, you're distracting me. He says, why half of his comments don't make it? Well, that's Michelle cleaning it up for all nighter. So what's important, and what Gloria just touched on, is that you can do a lot split and build up to 4. And the reason is because of the duplex conversion portion of the law. So it's actually 2 separate things. And that's what a lot of people confuse. You got the lot split provision, the duplex conversion provision. You can do one or both. So, and this is actually, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but do you help with the duplex conversion or only the lot split side of things, Gloria?
Our firm just does the lot split side of things,
Okay.
and we do not get involved with development. But if a lot of our clients do want to develop, so we will kind of handhold them, between them and the architect, we'll work together to make sure their development can happen. But we do the lot split process, which I think is actually more complex, a bit more complicated than the SB 9 housing development.
Yeah, and you guys, what made you move into a niche like this where it is complicated, and on some level, local municipalities is underappreciated? They're pushing back against it. So what made you guys dive into this niche?
I would give my dad credit for that. So he had actually sold his engineering company of 40 years, and he was happily retired. He's a pilot, so he was just flying around and kind of enjoying retirement life until he heard about SB 9. And I've literally never heard my dad so excited in my entire life.
This
He's
is a
like,
German dad who's super excited about something.
he's like, "You don't understand." And I was like, "No, I don't." And he's like, "This is crazy. Like, this is changing California, like turning it on its head, the amount of value that can be created here." Like, he understood because he's been in this world for 45 years. And he just saw so much value, and he happened to have the perfect combination of licenses, being a surveyor and an engineer. And so the two of us together just decided to hone in on this niche because nobody else was doing it. And so we jumped in. We started the company before SB 9 was even legalized. We already
Yeah.
had our first project submitted on January 1st.
Oh my
And
God.
yeah, I give him all the credit because he saw this coming like months ahead of time.
Hey, we have to give you credit as well because you've been out there hitting the pavement, spreading the word on this, and it's a testament the fact that you guys is 50 projects completed. Is that accurate, or has that number gone up?
We have around 65 projects approved at this point.
That is amazing. That is
So
amazing.
we account for about a third of all project approvals in the state so far.
Okay, so all-nighter, as I mentioned to you, Gloria, he's good with technical questions, and he's jumping ahead, which he likes to do, but I think it's worth doing this, and we'll circle back. So all-nighter wants to know, do you know an average cost for running new utilities or splitting utilities as a cost to consider of lot splits in SoCal? Should we table that until the end? Should we bring that up when we talk more about cost of splits? Or do you want to dive in?
I can just tackle that one real
Do
quick.
it.
All-nighter, great question. I wish I had a good answer for you, but the truth is all utility companies, they're private companies for the most part, and the price ranges so dramatically, anywhere from $15,000 to like $200,000.
Oh,
And
geez.
it's such a crazy range that I can't give you a straight answer in terms of the utility costs. But I will say that you don't necessarily have to get involved with utilities if you're doing a lot split. So I can describe that now unless you want to.
Yeah, no, that's a great distinction. please.
So let's say you have a lot and you just have one home on it and you want to split the lot, create a vacant parcel,
Yeah.
either hang on to it for long-term nest egg, or maybe you just want to sell it immediately and make some cash.
Yep.
You don't need to do anything with your utilities. You can just create this vacant parcel, and then let's say you sell it. You don't have to touch utilities. You don't have to create new utilities for the new lot. That will be the new owner's responsibility.
Yeah. As long as you disclose it when you're selling it, of course. But yeah,
Totally.
that's a
And
great
what we
point.
do is we do check to make sure that utilities can go to the new parcel. We're never
Yeah.
going to do a lot split if it's not actually buildable in the future. The one distinction is if you do have, say, an ADU or another home on that new parcel already, you will need to have separate utilities for the two parcels. So
Got it.
that's one of the main, I'd say, like, drawbacks or challenges for these projects is that the utilities can be really pricey. If you have an ADU and a home and you want to split them down the middle, you got to separate the utilities, and sometimes that cost is prohibitive for people.
That's a great distinction. That was a question that I was trying to tackle early on from folks. Number one is could they split between a main house and an ADU?
Mhm.
Which it sounds like the answer to that is yes. And
Yes.
then I agree with you. Yeah, utilities have to be run in that case. And then what do you do? Do you do typically an easement? If it's, for example, if it's a parcel in the back and there's you're splitting back to front, would you have an easement for utilities across that front parcel?
Exactly. Yeah, and that's something that we handle, and it's actually super simple. We'll just have an easement so that they both have access to utility
That's
lines.
And then so now we're diving deep
We're just
because
going right in.
no, these are all questions that are just popping up because I've had so many discussions. But so for example, sewer line goes to the main structure, and for that ADU in the back, for example, would you put an easement for a new sewer line on the side of the lot, or would you run it in the trench where the existing sewer line is? Although it probably makes sense you wouldn't want to do that because you want to go around the house in case anything comes up.
Mhm. Yeah, it kind of depends on the property. It's property specific. Sometimes they'll lay it in the same trench, sometimes it'll be on the opposite side. So
Okay.
it just kind of depends on the layout of the property.
And that's again why you have an expert like Gloria and her team to figure this out.
Yeah, these are all the fun things that we look at, and we do all of the preliminary work and checking free of charge. So, we'll do all the legwork to make sure we can get, like, your utilities, eligibility, all that stuff before we.
All right. So Armin says, actually, SB9 is really easy. Armin, so I appreciate that perspective, but we're going to ask Gloria, who's doing projects all across California, if maybe Armin is in an easy place to do SB9. Is there much variation across the state?
Yeah, Armin, I would love to hear, if you wanna put in the chat, like, where you did a project where it was easy.
Yeah, please, Armin.
If you have done an SB9 where you've done it. There are certain jurisdictions that are more of a slam dunk than others. Still, slam dunk is a generous term because we're professionals. Some are definitely easier and quicker than others, and other jurisdictions are just a total nightmare and a headache. Not to say it's not possible, it just might take 2 years, and be a very costly process. So we've kind of by now, we have projects in over 55 jurisdictions
Yeah.
throughout California, so we have a really good feeling of which jurisdictions are more friendly and others where we're like, we don't wanna work there again.
I misspoke. It's actually Armony. My apologies on your pronunciation. All Nighter said hi. So Armony has a good point. You don't actually have to split the lot technically. And Armony was doing it in Glendale and LA
Mhm.
area. It gets tricky in that neck of the woods depending on where you fall. If you're LA City, LA County unincorporated, or an incorporated area.
Right.
So
Maybe he's referring to the housing development, law, it sounds like.
so the duplex conversion, exactly. You don't have to split it. And then this is going to come up later. We might as well dive in right now. Let's talk about the owner occupancy provision that
Mhm.
is flagged when you do the lot split.
Totally. Yeah. So if you want to split your lot, there is an affidavit requirement, which is a document that says, I, as the applicant, intend to reside on this property for 3 years after the lot split is completed. So
Yeah.
the wording there is very particular. It's a statement of intent. It's not saying I'm bound to live there for 3 years. It's your current intent. So it's a little bit of a gray area
It's
there.
loose, is what you're saying. So
Loose.
at least you would never recommend that folks attempt to play with the language of it, but some folks may decide they don't ultimately end up there.
Right. Some people have changed their mind where they do have an intent to live there, and then
Yeah.
maybe after a year or something, they end up moving. We've had planners tell us they're not coming to knock on the door, and make sure you're living there or something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a gray area situation, but it is signed under perjury, so it's something to be taken
Yeah.
seriously.
Don't. You're absolutely right. Perjury is a big deal. Harmony got 3 projects approved. Harmony, go ahead and let us know, were those lot splits and duplex conversions? Duplex conversions, what were they? Because I'm curious as well.
And one other thing I wanted to mention about the affidavit is
Yeah.
certain jurisdictions allow the tenant to sign the affidavit. So the tenant could be the
Oh,
applicant for the
interesting.
project, and the owner, it might just be a rental property. The owner can say, I'm going to have my tenant sign the application and say that they intend to live there for 3 years. And so there's about 40% jurisdictions allow that to happen.
That's interesting. And the important distinction too is if you do just the duplex conversion, not the lot split, you don't sign a 3-year occupancy affidavit. That is not part of the process. So,
Yeah.
so let's talk about your eligibility checker tool. So what if somebody sent you an address, what are the first things high level you're looking at for the property?
Well, luckily, we don't have to look at it, really, because our software that we created does the work for us. We got
That's
tired
awesome.
of checking all the things manually, so we had
Yeah.
our really smart map researcher guy create a tool. So
Love
it
it.
checks about 15 different criteria all at once in the matter of a couple seconds.
Yeah.
But the high level thing that we're checking for is it zoned single family residential? That's a requirement for SB9. If it's not single family residential, I would recommend people look at SB 1123, which is another law that we work with. You can split your lot up to 10 units, and that works for multifamily, that works for commercial. But we'll stick to talking about SB9 today. So
Michelle is in the background. Michelle, book Gloria for the SB 1123 discussion in the future, because I actually want to know more about that. So
yeah,
anyway,
that's going to be
so
a
keep going. So
big topic.
zoning, zoning is the first filter, and then what are some other good
Zoning,
filters?
then it has to be in an urban area.
Yeah.
It might not be what you think. So don't necessarily just mentally rule your property out if you're in what feels like kind of a rural area, because it's a technical urban cluster.
Yeah.
It's a particular map layer that we have to look at to see whether you fall into this urban cluster area. Then we look at access. Is there a way to physically drive a car or access the part of the property you want to split off? If there's a home and it's blocking the entire width of the property, it is probably going to be really difficult to split it off, unless you're within a half mile of a transit corridor, like a bus station. Then you don't have to have a parking space or car access. So there's some nuances with all of these.
Yeah, and well said. Let's talk about that for a second, because that does affect the economics, ultimately the sale price of the lot as well. And then if we can, again, this is something just diving deeper. There's a 40-60 lots split rule. So in no cases can the split lot be smaller than 40%. So, and where I'm going with this is access to a rear parcel, like we talked about before. Do we want to use an easement for access, or do we want to actually do like a flag lot split to help us get our 40-60, or is it just, or 50-50, or is it just lot dependent?
Right. So creating the flag lot can help if you're trying to squeeze out that 40%. That can help contribute to the square footage. In terms of whether it be flag lot or easement, it's kind of just personal preference. I haven't found it to make much of a difference in terms of value or provability. It's kind of just, a design decision.
I wish I found you so much longer ago, because I've had all these discussions with people, and I had no professional to give them to like you. So then I know that it can't be in a high fire severity zone, flood zones, things like that. Are there
Well,
workarounds?
There are workarounds actually for the very high fire zone. We just have to follow the mitigation measures. So we've got to check in with the fire department and see what kind of fire mitigation measures the property has. If they are good, then we can actually split the lot if they deem it safe enough. So
Got it.
very high fire zone does not automatically disqualify the property. There's kind of a similar situation with the flood zone. So the moral of this is like, just send us your property and we will check all these nuances, because you can kind of get an idea of eligibility, but there's so many nuances that we're now aware of that, like, just give us your address. We'll do it for free. We'll do eligibility check and let you know whether we think it's doable or not.
No, that's amazing. And then what would be some eligibility deal killers that some people just wouldn't recognize? Like, what is some crazy ones you've seen? Like protected trees or anything? Like what
Yeah,
are some good ones?
we've had 1 or 2 projects die because we had to get a biologist. This isn't normal, but because it was a heavily wooded property, we hired a biologist to check. There was a special species that might have held a special species of animals. So they said, yeah, this doesn't qualify. So that was one. Other deal killers are, let's say you have a pool or another accessory structure on the lot you want to split off, you have to demolish it unless you build a dwelling unit. So if you have like a barn or a shed or a pool, you have to demo it unless you build a little home over there, which I think is a silly law, but that's just California law. So we've had certain people go, oh, well, I don't want to demo my pool or my shed. And so that's caused some challenges.
It's an LA sinkhole is what All Nighter refers to a pool as.
Oh, yeah, totally. Um,
Any other crazy deal killers that you found? Because
I
I
would,
know certain municipalities, like Harmony keeps talking about how easy it is, and I appreciate that, Harmony. I'm glad, but in some spots it's not. So who would be, don't be afraid to name names. Like what city would be one that it's like you're pulling teeth to get everything approved?
Yeah, well, we had a lot of eligible properties in Sebastopol up north, but unfortunately, a lot of them are on septic. And
Yeah.
again, septic doesn't totally unroll the property, but it makes it way more challenging because you have to get a septic review and design a new septic system. So that's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah,
Um,
that's well said. Because you look at it from above, you're like, "Hey, look at all this vacant land." Well, that happens to be a septic field
yeah,
for the
exactly.
for the property,
Yeah, then
so
you need like 3 acres for, for it
yeah.
to make sense. And Los Angeles City has been our most challenging jurisdiction.
No need to apologize, Harmony. I appreciate the enthusiasm and the success.
I'm glad it's been easy for you.
Yeah, no, don't apologize. We're happy. I like enthusiastic
Yeah.
viewers. So LA City, you said, has been tough?
Yeah, we actually just hired a project manager specifically for City of LA because we had enough interest, but it was such a pain in the butt. It was just dragging down our 2 project managers, so we hired somebody specifically for City of LA, because it's just kind of a nightmare over there. So it is doable in City of LA. It's just disorganized, and it takes probably 18 months or so to get the approval for the lot split.
Not the city of LA. They're a bastion of organization. There was legislation, if I'm not mistaken, passed that prevents SB9 being used in certain fire zones. Is that something you're aware of?
Oh, yes, that is true. I don't know exactly, like, which neighborhoods are banned from or not banned, but have kind of relief from SB9,
Yeah.
but I think you're right, and if people have a lot in that area, they can, again, reach out to us, and we'll look at the specifics of which neighborhoods and which towns, where SB9 does not apply there.
And in that, this dovetails into my next big question.
Mhm.
So people are Googling this up, like my son Liam says. They're Googling up, is SB9 overturned, SB9 lawsuits, is SB9 even still valid? And that's literally, I researched it. The keywords, people are actually Googling that up.
Yeah,
I know there was a lawsuit related to charter cities
totally.
and the eligibility of SB9. Any thoughts or updates or anything you can share on that?
Yeah, it's things have actually made a turn for the better. About 2 years ago, we were really concerned that we were gonna be out of business because we thought SB9 was gonna be overturned. There was a lot of pushback, but then SB 450 came out and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, you guys can't create all these special rules and ordinances around SB9. Like, here's the state law, you have to apply it." It said that charter cities aren't special. They have to also apply SB9. So since SB 450 came through, it pretty much eliminated all the drama around that. And we've also found that it's been getting easier and quicker, which is great. I think before cities were just so confused about SB9,
Yeah.
they were kind of treating it like the old subdivision. And every time we'd submit an application, we'd have to educate them like, well, no, actually, this is not what you're normally dealing with. So yeah, it looks like things are actually getting better and SB9 seems to be growing.
Well said. And it's funny, like Newport Beach, where I am, they hated ADUs when the ADU laws came out. Now they love ADUs. They're all excited about ADUs. I know they don't love SB9, but I'm waiting like in maybe
Mm,
a year and a half, they'll say, "Oh, we love SB9."
mm.
And that's really what it boils down to is like understanding what the law is.
And it's kind of nice because it's like light touch density. So you're creating little pockets of development rather than a huge construction project, a huge development of apartment buildings. You're having this light touch density, they call it, where it's like here and there scattered throughout the neighborhoods. There'll be another parcel, there'll be another house. So it's not having such a dramatic effect on neighborhoods that people are really afraid of.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and it's in the hands of the homeowners. It's not like developers are coming in and totally changing neighborhoods.
Yeah, that was the intention behind the owner occupancy provision is to prevent developers from taking advantage. And the law states you can't have two parcels next to each other with the same owner doing and taking advantage of SB9.
Mhm.
Opponents in the beginning of SB9 would talk about, oh my gosh, they can put 8 units on one lot, which you and I know isn't quite true
Mm,
because what they were talking about is having ADUs plus the 4 units. So let's talk about that. What are you seeing?
mm.
Because from my understanding is local municipalities don't have to allow ADUs plus duplex conversions and lot splits and all that.
Yeah, that's correct. So that's not allowed anywhere as far as as far as I know, in
Yeah,
single family zones. What you can do is you can have so you have one single family property, you can split it and you can have 2 homes on each, so a total of 4 homes, and that includes the ADU. So when we do SB9 lot split and housing development, the term ADU is kind of outdated because it's no longer an accessory dwelling unit. They're all considered primary homes. So you're no longer limited to this granny unit. So whether it's a ADU or a duplex or a home, a freestanding home, it doesn't matter. The cap is 4 total units, so 2 on each property. Does that
that's
make
great.
sense?
And that circles back to what we were initially talking about utilities. That's why a former ADU needs its own utilities because it's a standalone structure. It's a
Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
that's great. And then let's talk about the tenant occupied provision that's in there, where if the tenant lived in the structure in the last 3 years, you can't demolish more than 25% of the existing structure.
Mhm.
Are you coming across this much? Are you getting around this? What's going on with that?
I would say there's a misconception that people get freaked out. They're like, "Oh, I have a tenant or I had a tenant in the last few years. I can't do the split." And that's not true. So you can do the split even if you still have a tenant. But exactly what you're saying, you can't go and demolish the home. You can only demolish, I think, 25% of the house. So you could
Yeah.
modify one wall, I guess, if there's been a tenant in the last 3 years.
Yeah, and that's one of the interesting things, like, going back to what we were talking about easements and access, sometimes you'll see that darn garage right where if we could demolish it, we'd be able to get easy access to the back. So that becomes a question of whether that would apply if there's a tenant there or not.
Right.
So
That's a
you would,
nuance I'm not 100% sure on, of whether or not you could demolish a garage.
yeah.
If someone watching this happens to have that situation, feel free to reach out to us directly and we can check in with our engineers and see whether or not that applies, because it's kind of unclear whether they mean you can't demolish the residential structure
Yes.
or any
Or
building,
living area.
the garage. Yeah.
Yeah, because the garage isn't living area. So no,
Right.
and again, into the nuance and why they need a professional like you to get that guidance. And you guys that's part of figuring out whether a property works or not, because it may
Right.
work. So
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you can't demolish the residential area,
yeah.
but garage should be okay.
No, this is all again, stuff I wish I had talked to you before, because this is great stuff. So you guys have a guarantee when you move forward with a project, right?
We do.
Tell me about the guarantee, and then I want to know why you're so confident.
Again, this was my dad's idea. I remember him saying we want it to be a no-brainer for people. We want people to just have no second thoughts about working with us because they're not putting their money on the line. We're taking the risk. And I guess it makes sense because it's a pretty new law, and I understand why homeowners would be skeptical or hesitant to really put a bunch of money on the line and take the risk. So instead of asking homeowners to put all their money into the project and trust us, we just ask for a small upfront deposit after we've done all the legwork to make sure it's eligible. And beyond that deposit, we actually put in all the capital for the project, our own company funds. And we only ask for milestone payments once we've gotten an approval.
That's amazing.
And that is because we're really confident in what we're doing. So we've learned so much. We've had over 240 projects. Some of those have not panned out. And so we've learned a lot in our failures as well.
Yeah.
And now we know what to look for. We know the common pitfalls. We're no longer willing to take on projects that we don't think are going to pass. That wouldn't be smart for us. That wouldn't be smart for the homeowner. So we have a really thorough due diligence process at the beginning to save everybody time, money, headaches. Yeah. And then if we feel confident, then we'll put our own money on the line to make the project happen.
That's amazing. And I love the fact that you just admitted that you guys had some projects that didn't go through. Like, I wouldn't believe you if you said every single one, especially early on, went
especially
through.
early on.
Because everybody was figuring it out.
Yeah, we lost a good amount of money at the beginning, because at the beginning we weren't even asking for any sort of deposit either.
Oh,
So we
wow.
were just like signing people up and we're like, yeah, let's go. And then we'd be like, oh, we didn't think about that. And I think that's what most civil engineers are running into, because they haven't done 250 projects.
Yeah.
So they aren't aware of all the common pitfalls. And now we've had a decent amount of failures of a variety of types. So now we know all the different flavors of failure, and we know exactly how to avoid them. So it just builds our confidence.
I appreciate that. As an agent who sells tenant occupied properties, it's a specific niche. And my experiences have come through being successful and not so successful. So we're in the same boat, in the same boat there. And rough timeline and cost. I know it's very wide ranging.
Yeah, timeline, again, it depends on the jurisdiction, but I would say on average 10 to 18 months is our average from contract signed to new parcel is recorded. And the day that parcel is recorded by us, our client, the homeowner, can go ahead and sell that property immediately. So it's a brand new property. And then in terms of pricing for the lot split itself, we do a fixed fee cost, which includes all the city and county fees, surveys, topographic survey, boundary survey, project management costs, legal fees, recording fees, etc. One lump fee. It's typically between $50,000 and $70,000 to get the whole project complete. Again, that's only paid if we get the approvals. And we're typically seeing homeowners benefit from a net value increase of anywhere from 250,000 to upwards of $1 million from this one project. And the nice thing is there's very little financial risk. And if they decide to work with us, we do all the work. So if the property is valuable, it is a no-brainer in my opinion.
That is spectacular. Yeah, and like you said, particularly for folks who have properties in a luxury area, it could be a million or more
Mhm.
value in the land. And talk to your CPA, but that's probably a cost that you could put against the capital gain in the new parcel when you're selling it. Let's talk about property taxes. I don't know how familiar you are on what happens, but do the counties reassess the properties as far as you know, or any insight you can give there?
Yeah, that's a great question. We get it all the time.
Yeah.
So we are really familiar. We've talked with a lot of tax professionals on this. The good news is no, there is no reassessment that is triggered by the property lot split. So you get to enjoy a big increase of value, but you aren't going to be paying taxes on that increase of value. The property only gets reevaluated or reassessed once there's a change of title ownership.
Oh, wow.
So if you sell the property, then it'll get reassessed, but you're only paying taxes on the portion that you're keeping. So you're actually paying less taxes at the end of
Yeah.
the day. But if you split and you're just holding both, you're not having to pay an arm and a leg extra of taxes. The only change is called a per parcel tax. That's like the school district, mosquito district. It's little small tax
Yeah.
fees, somewhere between like $200 and $1,000 per year extra.
Yeah, those are, we look at those in real estate as special assessments above and beyond the base rate. So no, that's, I wanted the answer to that question. It took me so long.
Uh,
We have a good question from an agent in the Bay Area. Is the cost going to be the same in the Bay Area cities? I mean, that you quoted, is there a variation when you get into higher density areas for the cost to
mhm.
split?
It's all still within typically that 50 to 70K range. I would say City of LA projects are our most pricey. And then there's certain Bay Area cities that we know are quicker and easier. And so we can charge less because it just takes less of our team's time to do. But yeah, contact us directly and we can give you an estimate for that jurisdiction.
You're gonna be busy, I have a feeling, after this podcast live stream, real estate disclosure. And then what do you see folks doing after they've hired you and you guys successfully finish the project? Do you have any sort of breakdown on kind of what percentage hold, what percentage sell, what percentage
Mhm.
build?
Yeah, it's funny. We actually had a client sell one of their vacant lots for like $1 million like 2
That's
weeks
awesome.
ago. It was
Oh,
amazing.
nice.
Yeah. So we've got a couple sold, a couple on the market, but I would say a good amount of people will go ahead and try to sell their property immediately right after the fact. Another third will hang on to it as a nest egg for the future. Maybe they have kids and they want to diversify their assets. So the lot splits allows you to break up your assets into different chunks. You can give one to Bobby, one to Hillary, just like break things
Ooh,
up. So to do your estate planning.
that's
Um,
genius.
yeah, because it's like if you have one giant property with 4 homes, it's like, who's our favorite kid, you know? But if you do the lot split, you can parcel things off, with a little bit more fairness.
That's I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's spectacular because literally we have trust attorneys on here. So I'm actually going to bring that up next time I bring my trust attorney and estate planning attorney on. We're going to talk about SB9.
Awesome.
And then do you see folks building on the lot and then selling
Yeah,
that?
that was the other thing I was gonna say is some people have the interest and financial capacity to develop themselves, so they will go ahead and split the lot and develop it, and they might wanna house their family members, or they might want, passive income and have tenants on the properties. And
Yeah.
we work with developers, and investors and realtors. So we kind of puzzle piece together. If people need builders or if they need architects, we can help people find all the right pieces, and we'll make sure to get you on our list, Christian.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
But
I'm the
yeah,
same way. It's like you want to be the resource for people. Whatever they
yeah,
need, you'll find good ones. I love that.
yeah, because we can't do it all. So we just
Yeah.
try to match people with the right providers.
And this is a discussion that I would bring up with folks, a piece of the puzzle I'd bring up, and it would kill a lot of I'd get a lot of sad faces, and I could hear like the conversation die when we were talking about SB9. And that is, and I want your clarifications here, when there's financing on the existing parcel you're about to split, you're
Mhm.
technically changing the collateral for the lender if you split that lot. Tell me how you handle that.
So most of our clients have an ongoing mortgage, and there's no issue. It's very rare for there to be required lender approval for the lot split. And what happens is the lien just encumbers all the land. So
Okay.
I guess the lien covers both properties. And so the lender isn't threatened by the lot split because now it just holds both properties. You do need to renegotiate the mortgage with your lender if you plan to sell off one of those parcels, because then you're selling off part of, what the lien covers. But just to do the lot split, it's unless you have a document in your lien agreement which says you cannot subdivide, then
Mhm.
you might be under fault with your lien. But otherwise, 98% of cases, there's no issue with having a mortgage and doing the lot split under that.
That's great. And yeah, that's what I wonder if it triggers an acceleration clause in some mortgages in the lien documents. But and this could be off the record, even though we're publicly discussing this. But do you have a feeling that some of the folks are talking to their lenders or not talking to their lenders about the lot split? They're just kind of doing the split, and then if they're going to sell it, then they'll bring up that discussion with the lender. Any idea?
Typically, I think people are just doing the lot split, and if
Yeah.
they have any concerns, then we will review the loan agreement to make sure there's no clauses that prohibit the subdivision.
Yeah.
But most people are having that conversation once it's time to sell one of the lots to check out their loan to value ratio.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And there'd be title issues as well, to make sure that they're taken care of before selling a piece.
Mhm.
This is okay. So all-nighter's got a follow-up. Let's see where he takes us. All right. Are lenders starting to add provisions for lot splits in their terms? That's a good question.
That's a really good question. I am not aware of that yet. Have you heard of that, Christian?
To be honest, I haven't, and I don't know if it's on the radar enough for most
Mhm.
lenders that SB9 even exists. But
Right.
I mean, I could probably be construed that it would trigger the acceleration clause in many of them. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I think that instinct of, I hate to say it, but it won't hurt them if they don't know. I would never give that advice to anyone, but
You didn't
just
say that, but
no, my advice would be, look, if you're going to do it and you have a mortgage in place, you probably should talk to the lender. And then if you're not going to, be prepared that it could be accelerated at some point in
Mhm,
time, which would mean either showing up with all cash or getting a different type of loan or having to sell that lot
mhm,
to pay
mhm,
off the mortgage. So,
mhm. But
but
yeah, in
it,
all, 200 working projects that we've either completed or are in progress, there's a couple jurisdictions that do require lender approval. And of all the other ones, I think we've only had maybe one project where the lender was in cahoots with the homeowner about the mortgage and how to
yeah.
renegotiate it.
The funny thing is, you say that the way you said that too, the lender was in cahoots. It's a good way to put it because loan officers can get very creative. If you talk to a loan officer or mortgage broker instead of the bank, the servicer, they're very creative people, and I mean that as a compliment. That is not an insult. So tell me, I mean, look, you guys have been doing this now. You've had 250 projects. You've had success. You've had failures. what excites you about this? Are you still excited? Is dad still excited?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's just getting better. As far as I can tell, there's more interest, there's more educated people. So that means we're answering fewer of the same questions over and over again.
Yeah.
People are starting to, yeah, know what SB9 is a little bit more. And yeah, we have an incredible team that's been taking a lot of the workload off of my dad and I's shoulder, which is amazing. And I see how much value it's bringing to homeowners. Like every week, we get at least a couple calls of people being like, "I can't believe I just got this letter in the mail. I've literally been praying for this." Like, I kid you
Oh,
not, I've gotten that call so many times of people not wanting to maintain their huge backyard or side yard and wanting to make some extra cash. And a lot of people are just like, "This is an amazing opportunity." So, yeah, it lights us up. We're happy to
it's
help.
a win-win, and you gotta love that.
Yeah.
What, when you see, are there any parcels that you've looked at and you said, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing"? I have one I'll tell you about, but are there any parcels you get excited about?
You mean in terms of, like, how
You just
valuable it is, or
Yeah, you look at it and you're like, "Oh my gosh, it's like this thing was perfect for
Yeah,
SB." I'm a nerd, so that's the stuff that
totally.
excites me, but
Yeah, I mean, it's fun to do site visits. I used to do site visits more with my dad. We would go around to visit different properties and talk to potential clients about splitting the lot. And I love properties with a good view. So that's just killer when you find a property with a view and both homes can have exceptional views and maintain a sense of privacy. It's just like, what? You just created such a jackpot out of nothing, out of thin air kind of. So
yeah,
those properties light me up.
I get super excited over parcels, and it shows what a nerd I am. Like, why am I admitting this in public? I get excited about alley loaded parcels where you've got access from both sides. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. There was one where the woman called me, and I actually referred her to you guys. I sent her your way, but I don't know if she ever reached out. But she was in San Diego, right by the beach. She was not in the coastal zone. It was like one street over where she
Mhm.
wasn't in the coastal zone. And it was right at the end. So she had street, and alley access. And the setbacks weren't silly. Like it was just, and she had just a structure on the one side. So it was like beach property. She could easily split. It was just, so I got excited about that.
That's dreamy.
There was nothing in it for me. I was just
Yeah.
excited for her.
Totally. No, it's amazing when it works out like that, when the house is perfectly situated on, like, half of the parcel, and there's
Yeah.
access to the other half, and
Yeah, and
value.
it was her mom's property. It's been in the family for a long time, so her
Mhm.
goal was to split off the piece that is kinda empty, and then she'd be able to keep the front, and live there. So,
Awesome. Yeah, and I do wanna say to the listeners that typically, if a property is over $550,000 of value, 600,000, it's usually worth looking into the lot split. If it's much less value than that, usually the cost doesn't pan out, but 600K and above, usually a sweet spot, usually worth doing.
and do you mean the value as it sits before the lot split, correct?
Correct.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good metric. I like that.
And
That'll work.
obviously it depends on, what's on the property, how much
Yeah.
space there is, but that's kind of our rough, guideline.
No, I love that. That's a good metric for sure, and that, like, Orange County, that works. My neck of the woods, so.
Yeah.
Well, look, I really appreciate you being here, and, you're coming back. Michelle's gonna book SB 1123
Yes,
with you.
let's do it. Yeah, that's exciting new law. There's a lot happening there.
So thank you for doing this, having this conversation, answering questions I've had for a long time. I'm sending a bunch more people your way. You
Awesome.
clarified what this law is and what it isn't. So look, anybody who's listening, SB9 is an amazing opportunity for the right parcel. You can do lot split, do duplex conversion. There's different rules, but at the end of the day, you've got Gloria here who's going to help you figure out whether the property is going to qualify for SB9 or not. So reach out. I wrote it down, the eligibility checker tool. We're, we're going to have a link below so you can start there. They'll run it through that. And then Gloria will let you know if it qualifies and you can go from there. And look, this law is going to change. So they'll keep their eligibility checker up to date. We may find that it actually gets easier over time. So that's why you have to continue to keep an eye on this. So basically, the first step, to reiterate, if you're interested in talking about SB9 or considering SB9, you're going to follow that link and put the property address in. And then what, in a day or two, you reach out, Gloria?
Yeah, it takes us about a day to get back to the client with the eligibility status, and then they have the option to do a free consultation call with our team. And there's no sales pitch. It's not like that. It's more just informing the client what are their options, what are their restrictions, what potential ROI do they have on the property.
All right. And your website is Riechers Engineering, and Riechers, because this is, some people are listening to this, is spelled RIECHERS, engineering.com. That'll be in the description as well. So thanks for coming out tonight, you guys. This has been absolutely amazing for me. I'm excited. Can't wait to run home and go find some more lots that get me all excited and send them over to Gloria. She's going to turn off the eligibility checker for me. But really appreciate you being here. Looking forward to the next time you're going to be on, Gloria. And thanks for tuning in to Real Estate Disclosure. We'll see you next week with